What is good, my friends? Welcome to another awesome advanced guide where we will discuss all of the pro tactics and numbers you'll need to know to carry your team and beat pretty much all of your opponents into the dirt. So today we're going to be taking a look at my favorite hero in this game, which is Reinhardt. He is awesome. So as this will be a pretty in-depth guide and it'll be pretty long too, I will divide it into 5 sections. General stats, ultimate ability knowledge, melee damage, damage taken, and pro tips and tricks, which will help you bring your game to the ultimate next level. And if you wish to jump to a certain section of the guide, I will definitely leave the links in the description. You can just click them and the video will take you to them. So yeah, enjoy. So after playing Reinhardt for a while, I realized that he is not a very defensive hero because, yeah, sure, he does have this massive shield that will block you and your allies, but he also has a decent charge. He also has Flame Strike, so he has a lot of poke and harass abilities. And I feel that a more correct way to play him would be a balanced way. So you have a really good mixture of aggression and defense, because you're able to poke away at the enemy team. You're able to constantly disrupt them and constantly make yourself the primary target because you're just always there. And with all of the abilities that Reinhardt has, they just synergize so well together. And I'll definitely provide you all the numbers and reasons why you should play him more balanced in this guide, so stick around. Number 1. It is very important to know how armor works, especially when you're playing Reinhardt, because almost half, so 200 out of 500 of Reinhardt's total health pool, is actually armor. And to briefly summarize, if the damage taken when you're using armor is over 10, then 5 damage will be subtracted from it. If the damage is less than 10, the damage itself will be halved. So let's look at an example. So say you're fighting a Pharah and she's flying somewhere and she's shooting at you. And she hits you for 100 damage. So the armor will subtract 5 damage from that 100, and you will have 95 less armor after the hit. And if you're fighting a Tracer and she say hits you for 6 damage, you're actually only going to get hit for 3, and you're only going to get subtracted by 3 less armor. So it is very important to keep yourself above 300 HP, and always use that armor instead of your health, because armor will massively reduce the damage you take. Now let's take a look at Reinhardt's melee attack. It has a maximum range of 5.5 meters, which is the longest hitting melee attack in the game, effectively making it the best melee attack in the game. The arc itself, so the cone in which in front of it hits people, is 103 degrees, which allows you to cleave everyone in your line of sight in front of you. Now you can see it on the video on the screen. Even if you change your field of view, the cleave damage will still hit enemies outside of your field of view. However, after you pass 103 degrees, you cannot hit enemies outside your field of view, which means that the maximum arc is 103 degrees. It is important to note that Reinhardt's hitbox is a square, which means that it gets extra range on the sides, actually an extra 0.5 meters for a maximum of 6 meters. Now, this allows you to actually, if you're fighting a big group of people, you should just swipe yourself around, like spin yourself around, and you're going to get massive range on everyone, and you're going to be hitting people in the front, in the back of you, all around you. So it is definitely a good rule of thumb. Just like swirl around yourself in a big team fight, and you're going to be cleaving everyone. So now let's talk about the ultimate. Number 2. Reinhardt's ultimate ability is one of the best crown controls in the game. It has a maximum distance of 21 meters. That's crazy far. It also knocks enemies down for 2.5 seconds and deals 50 damage in a narrow cone in front of Reinhardt. You need to note that the smallest obstacles, so say like a lamppost, they're going to completely negate the effect of the ultimate if they're between you and your target. So you need to make sure that there is a clear line of sight between you and the target you're going to use the ultimate on. The ultimate recharge rates are amongst the fastest in the game for Reinhardt. If you're AFKing, it's going to take you 3 minutes and 40 seconds for the ultimate to fully recharge, and each swing from Reinhardt's weapon is going to add additional 7% for each enemy hit. So if you cleave 3 enemies, you're going to get 21% towards your next ultimate from each hit. Now, Reinhardt's charge, if landed correctly, is going to give you 18% towards your next ultimate, but that means you need to pin the enemy and ram him into the wall. Flame Strike, it goes through all enemies it touches, so if there's 5 enemies in a line, it's going to go through all of them. And it's going to add you 9% per each player damage. So each player deals damage to that adds 9% towards your next ultimate. However, you need to make sure that you note that the ultimate percentage you gain is based upon damage done. Which means that if you cleave an opponent and he has only 1 HP and you kill him, you're not going to gain any charge towards your next ultimate at all. It is also very important to note that you do not gain any charge from taking damage to your shield, which means that standing behind it is just a waste of potential because you're not going to be able to gain any damage and gain that ultimate that is going to wipe the enemy team. And killing enemies or providing assists to your team does also not provide any percentage towards your next ultimate. So now that we discussed the ultimate ability, let's discuss Reinhardt's damage and how much damage he can do upon which enemies.
Number 3.
After testing various heroes, I came to a consensus that Reinhardt's damage is pure, if you will, and it cannot be negated by anything other than armor. What that means is, Reinhardt will deal the same amount of damage to every single hero in the game. Now, the melee attack will deal 75 damage in a 100-degree arc in front of Reinhardt with a 5.5 meter range and 1 second swing time. Targets with armor will receive a hit of 70 instead of 75 due to armor negation. Flame Strike will deal a flat 100 damage, which can also be reduced by armor to 95. The Flame Strike can travel through enemies and deal damage to each enemy it passes without losing any damage. Reinhardt's charge will deal initial 50 damage, and that also includes the knockback when you knock enemies and you do not manage to pin them. However, if you do manage to pin them, you're going to get a hit of 300 on them. And this damage can be reduced by armor too, but it can be reduced only once. So if you manage to hit them and pin them, your total damage is going to be 345, not 340. After the charge is finished, the pin target will get stunned for 3 seconds. And if you pin the target but do not smash it into the wall and just fly with it until your charge is done, your target is still going to get stunned for 3 seconds, allowing you to put a few hits on him. All in all, Reinhardt has an amazing combination of spells that synergize amazingly well with each other. So now that we've looked at Reinhardt's damage, let's take a look at the damage other enemies can do to Reinhardt. And man, there were a lot of surprises here.
Number 4.
So when I was testing the damage various heroes did to Reinhardt, I was mind blown. But before I jump into the whole mind blow part, let me just go over the heroes you really need to watch out for when you're playing as Reinhardt. So the first one is McCree, because he's going to do 65 damage for body, legs, and arms, and 125 for a headshot with his left click. And that is considering armor, right? So if he gets behind you, unloads completely, and then rolls and then unloads again, you're dead, which is pretty bad. Now, Pharah will do a flat 115 damage to every part of the body. So with a full drum of her rockets, she's going to melt you. And that is with armor too. Junkrat will do 120, 5 more than Pharah to every part of your body, so he can also melt you with a single jump, which is really bad for you. And of course you need to watch out for Bastion, but usually there's not a lot of Bastions on high level play, and if there is, they're either A, dead, or B, known exactly where they are, so you know where to avoid them. So the part that really blew my mind was armor reduces over 50% of the damage done by shotguns, right? 50%! I mean, this would make sense because shotguns, they fire a ton of bullets, each of which has a small damage coefficient, but combined, they do like massive damage. Still, I tested this on Roadhog, Torbjorn, and Reaper, and to be honest, this 50% does not always apply. It's not like cut and dry 50%. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. So here are the numbers. So Roadhog, while shooting in the body, will do 113 damage with armor and 225 without. And if Roadhog headshots you up close, that'll be a hit of 274 with armor and over 450 without. That's like one shot, one kill. So Torbjorn is kind of iffy because even though he does have a shotgun, he only gets a flat damage increase from 250 to 300 for headshots and 100 to 150 for body shots, depending on your armor. Reaper will jump from 70 to 140 for the body shots and 180 to 280 for the headshots. So from these numbers alone, you can see that you must always keep yourself above 300 HP and use that armor instead of your health, as the damage difference can be massive. You do need to note that armor will only reduce damage as long as the full damage is taken by armor. So if you have one armor left, the damage will not be cut in half, and you're still going to get the full hit on you. So if you guys are interested about all the heroes, the damage they do to Reinhardt with and without armor, headshots and body shots and whatnot, I do have a spreadsheet, and I will post it in a separate video where I'm going to cover armor in depth. So now that I've covered all of the numbers and statistics for Reinhardt, let's jump to the amazing pro tips and use them to decimate all of your opponents.
Number 5.
So now for the amazingly amazing pro tips and tricks. And I do have quite a solid list here, and I'll start with the more common ones and progress to the very advanced ones. So the first one involves fighting your Reinhardt one-on-one. You want to flame strike him at least once, as that will do 95 damage, and you need to follow it up by a charge that will pin him into the wall. Now, you need to do this while he's using his shield, because when he's using his shield, he's very immobile and he's not going to be able to react fast enough to get out of the way. Now, as soon as you pin him to the wall, you need to follow it up by 2 melees, which will kill Reinhardt. And as you kill him, Just use your Flame Strike to chase off enemies that are around you that are really surprised and intimidated. So the next tip was already mentioned in part 1, however I'll repeat it again. You need to spin yourself around when in a massive team fight, and you'll be able to cleave everyone around you. And number 4 is the ability to increase the speed while using your shield by jumping and enabling the shield. The way to perform this is to jump, and as soon as you press space, use your right click to activate the shield until Reinhardt gets on the ground, and then press space again, right click. So repeat this until necessary until you get to the position you want. Number 5 is charge can be used while in midair, allowing you to charge from out of corners to surprise your enemies. Now, if you guys know any other advanced pro tips and tricks, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Now, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and picked up a useful thing or two for yourself. Now, if this video gets 10 likes, I will post an advanced guide for the hero of your choosing from the comments, or pick one myself. And remember, always stay thirsty for more
knowledge.